I've been thinking about a way to simplify this displaying values with feet and inches. And I think I've come up with something that, at least on the surface, is pretty easy. One of the macro people might poke some holes in it, but maybe it'll get some people thinking about it. The key is this marker down here. And it doesn't have to be a marker, it can be most anything that you can associate a macro with. And it needs to be, you need to basically start with an empty plan and then place something. And I just used a marker just because. And so what happens is when Chief draws this, apparently Chief draws things in the order that they're created. So if you put this marker or a polyline solid or just almost anything, if you put this in your plan, if you put this first and then you draw other things around it, Chief is always going to execute the macro that's associated with this before anything else. And so this has, I just stuck a level in the floor number in there, and then I have a macro that I called init, I-N-I-T, and you can call it anything. And so here's the init macro. It sets up a number formatter, and it creates this function. So all this does is defines a function called fi, feet inch, and that function accepts a single value. And again, this variable can be anything. I just called it n for number. And then the function applies that value to the number formatter. And then these double quotes down here, or that's two single quotes, all that does is it keeps this from returning a value down here. If you don't have those double quotes, you're going to get a true or something like that that shows up down here, and you don't need that or want that. So that two single quotes there just basically returns nothing. And again, there's probably a more sophisticated way of doing that, but that seems to work. And so I've got a bunch of items in here that I've used this on, and we'll look at this one. All this does, I've got just some text here. You don't need that, that's optional. And then this percent %fi, that's our function from over here. And so I'm going to give it room floor elevation and room ceiling elevation. So you surround this with these percent signs, and Chief passes that to Ruby and does its thing. So here's just some CAD that's got a perimeter. So the same thing, percent %fi and then parentheses perimeter. This could be anything that's a measurement. Here's a cabinet, same kind of deal. The label has got height and then percent %fi height percent. Here's a column symbol, and everybody, I think, should know about this object properties macro. This is something Chief did for us a version or two ago. And so you just point that to whatever you want to get information about. And when you see a measurement like this, those are things you can use with this number formatter. So here I've got the description, formatted size, which you can find right here. And then the height, which is right here. So this is similar height, feet inch, height. So this makes it pretty simple. You don't, this macro over here gets set up when you open the plan, and then you don't have to use macros to convert to feet and inches. I mean, you don't have to write a special macro to do that. You can just use this generic one. And if you want other formatting options, you can do this same basic thing. You can create a different number formatter. You can create another function with a different name. And you can write stuff that I think would use some of these other, like integers, strings.